A Shabbat Shalom Akin, Shabbat Shalom, all praises, glory and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone for teaching us his truth, and salutations to the sincere Akim and Aqua. Listen, may the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Okwai. I'm back in here with another quick and Lord's will is always an edifying lesson. And for today's lesson, I didn't really have much of a clear-cut title. I was just meditating on a few things in regards to servitude, in regards to essentially being considerate, if you're in a position where you're surrounded by brothers, and this mindset of altruism. So the mindset basically is sometimes being around brethren, you might be blessed with certain things, and you take that also as an opportunity to actually help others out, because in moments in time, sometimes you might be surrounded by brethren who are not essentially might be going through something, and it also a little always goes a long way, right? If there is a capacity in your way to actually help them, essentially helping them out, basically, right? And so I just wanted to get the word altruism, and Lord's will is always just be edifying, right? So just to get a clear-cut understanding of what I'm trying to convey here, this says altruism. It says the belief in or practice of disinterested and selfless concern for the well-being of others. It says some may choose to work in a vulnerable elderly people out of altruism. It says synonyms: selflessness, self-sacrifice, self-denial, compassion, consideration, decency, nobility, right? So this is part of us being a noble, that noble vine, right? These are the characteristics. It says bounteousness, right? Oh, that's different. Okay, let me hold on. Let me get that word. I never seen that word before. Okay, so bounteous is an adjective. It says full of goodness to others. It says generous in bestowing, bountiful. Okay, bountiful, it means liberal in bestowing gifts, right? So you might be in a situation where you're doing your situation is okay, and then you use that opportunity to do good to others, right? So that's a very healthy, and it's as I was just reading here, it's a very noble mindset to have, right? So let me get a couple scriptures. As a matter of fact, I know there's a word bounteous. There's a scripture on that. Let me. Okay, this is I didn't have this one written down, but this is 2 Corinthians 9, verse 6. And it says, "But this I say, which he which soweth sparingly shall reap also sparingly, and he which soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully," right? So we want to be able to reap bountifully, especially when that rainy day comes, right? Because we know that pursuant to Jeremiah the 30th chapter, there's going to be a time of Jacob's trouble, and the little things that we have, right? Whether you have a job, you have probably maybe a side hustle or some property and all that kind of stuff. Different brethren are different situations, but using those things can go a long way, right? In these moments, right? So when we don't have anything, when we're essentially kind of like basically cut off from society, we want to be able to reap bountifully. Like there's a term in the world, they say, what do they call it? They call it like rainy day money. Like you put money aside, and when I say money, I'm talking about like spiritual money. You put money aside, for when that rainy day comes, that the Lord will remember us, in those rainy days, right? Because we know there's going to be spirits creative for vengeance. The love of many is waxing cold, like we see that in these times, because in the tariff situation is really screwing over the people. It's not really, it's basically just a tug of war going on between these countries at this point. But the only people who are really being screwed over is the people, the population, right? So we know there's going to be sedition among men. They will not regard their kings or their princes, the people who are ruling, in the society, right? So with the little things that we do have, it can be very, very useful in the time of grace, where we can use it to sow bountifully in that time of rainy day, you know. So okay, so what I'll do, I'll start off with First Peter's. First Peter's 4 verse 7, and it says, "But the end of all things is at hand. Be ye therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent charity amongst yourselves, for charity covereth a multitude of sins," right? So, we know that these things are coming to pass. We know that, things are heating up between, the whore, aka America, and the 10 horns, the EU, and these NATO nations. We know there's tension going on between these two. We know that there's tension going on between, the whore and its own allies. There's tension going on in the quote unquote Middle East, right? So seeing all these things, we can use these things to capitalize and build up and acquire more and more spiritual money, so we have something to kind of withdraw in those times, right? So the Lord Yahweh Shemel Shai can remember us in those times, right? Because we know that the little riches we have, I don't want to say riches, but you brothers know what I mean. The little substance that we have now is not going to profit us in a day of wrath. And the scriptures clearly tell us that. It says riches are not profitable in a day of wrath, but righteousness can deliver from death, right? So it shows you the importance and the benefit and what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, the benefit of having that righteousness, right? Jake doesn't see that and see that as a benefit. It looks corny, it looks lame, but in times to come, when the luxury of not going into a grocery store because we choose not to take the grain of rice, like we're gonna need divine intervention. Like, let's be honest, right? We're gonna need that divine intervention where the Lord's gonna work a certain miracle in some sort of way or fashion, just like in the time of Acts or in the time of Elijah when he was fed with ravens. Like, we're gonna need somebody to kind of hover over us in those times to come, right? So okay, let me go back to the scriptures here. I think this one is in the Apocrypha. Okay, this is Sirach chapter 20 verse 30, and it says, "Wisdom that is hid and treasure that is hoarded up, what profit is in them both?" Right? So it says, and it's asking in a question. There is no profit, in wisdom that is hidden and that is and treasure that is hoarded up. Like these treasures, these things are meant to be used. These things are meant to be essentially put into practice. You just, when you just have it there, it doesn't serve any purpose, right? The purpose of it, of money, is for others that can be able to benefit, can use it, right? It's a defense, right? So having these things is very beneficial, and it just allows us to be, considerate, because in moments you might be doing very good, like Paul describes being abound and being abased, like you might be abound, so to speak. And you being abound, it can help you acquire spiritual money by giving actual money. I'm just using money as an example. It doesn't have to be money, right? Something to it can also be, time. It can also, you can also lend somebody your ear, like those sorts of things are very, very beneficial. Those things are very, very helpful, because in moments you might have to deny yourself, right? And then exemplify and put on, as the scriptures talk about, how put on therefore the elect. As a matter of fact, let me get that. It's really just, having and adopting a sentiment of character, and this is one thing as a people that we've lost, you know, because, being under, one thing I've noticed is that, especially amongst a lot of our people who know that they're Israelites, they have a sentiment of the wicked upon them, when it comes to like things like money, for example. So they charge for breakdowns, and they think about just filling their own belly rather than the actual self-sacrifice, denying themselves and actually trying to, put the welfare of their people, care about the welfare of their people, so to speak. So what do? They tell them wrong things. They tell them the MOTB is not this. They try to deceive the people, this and that and the fourth, right? And also robbing them on a physical or a financial level also, right? So this is Colossians, back to the point I was making, Colossians chapter 3 verse 12, and it says, put on therefore the elect of the Most High, Yahweh, holy and beloved, bowels of mercies, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness, long suffering, forbearing one another and forgiving one another. If any man have a quarrel against any, even as Hamashiach Yahushai forgave you, so also do ye, right? So, these are different things to actually exemplify. These are fruits of the Spirit, and a tree is known by its fruits, right? So, having those physical things, you realize it's actually it's still very beneficial, to have a mindset of altruism, have that mindset of being, self-sacrifice, actually trying to, care about, the welfare, and, just, you're being considerate. And that's one thing I was meditating on also in regards to being considerate, because in the world doesn't teach, our people to have that sort of care and consideration for our own kin, because they have that mindset of Esau in a sense. And when I say that, it's like whatever substance Jake might acquire, they kind of have the mindset of just like, they want to hoard it to themselves, kind of like how the elites want to hoard everything to themselves. Jake has been seduced and adopted a very, very similar mindset, right? Which really, when you think about it, is kind of like a lack of faith. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't believe, if I actually be able to, help this person, they don't think there's any way that it's going to come back to them at any sort of point. You know what I'm saying? So really, a lot of our people have really been seduced into the ways of the wicked, right? And it has dimmed the vibration of our people to the point where you're degenerate plants. And one of the synonyms I read in regards to altruism was nobility. If we're a nation of kings and priests, that's part of the character we should exemplify, right? Let me get this account, here. I was reading this earlier, and it came into my mind. 1 second. Okay, this is the book of Tobit, chapter 2, verse 1, just to kind of like solidify that sentiment of altruism. So basically self-sacrifice, denying himself, and thinking about the welfare of others. So it says, and this is Tobit speaking, so it says in verse 1, now when I was come home again, my wife Anna was restored unto me with my son Tobias in the feast of Pentecost, which is the holy feast of 7 weeks. There was a good dinner prepared me, in the which I sat down to eat. And when I saw abundance of meat, I said to my son, go and bring what poor man soever thou shalt find out of our brethren, who is mindful of the Lord Yahweh Bashem Shai, and lo, I tarry for thee. But he came again and said, Father, one of our nation is strangled, and is cast out in the marketplace. Then, before I had tasted of any meat, I started up and took him into a room until the going down of the sun. And then I returned and washed myself and ate my meat in heaviness, right? So, you know, right before, Tobit can actually get up and, actually, taste of the food, he was thinking about the welfare of his own people. It's like, yo, is there anybody out there who is mindful of the Lord, of our own kin, right? He was thinking about the welfare of our own people. And in the earlier chapter, one of the things he was doing, he was burying the people who were being slain, our dead Israelites, right? So even before he can actually pick up the food, like, when you're marved, and like, say for example, it's like Day of Atonement, and man, like after it's almost, when it's almost sundown, you're thinking about drinking something, or cracking open a nice cold fruit or something like that, right? Tobit had the kind of mindset where he was like, you know what, see if there's anybody out there who's mindful of the Lord, and try and get someone and help them out, right? So he didn't even get a crack at that food of what he was blessed with, right? He was in a situation, okay, you have your son, you have your wife, you probably have a good sized property, and what I'm saying, he was blessed with a little substance, right? Just painting a picture here, and right, and you see the condition of your own people, right? And he's like, yo, let me see if there's anybody mindful of the Lord who can actually benefit, for what I've been blessed with, right? That's the kind of mindset he had. He didn't even taste of the food yet, but he ate the food, and in heaviness, right? But it just shows you that altruistic mindset, that mindset of, he thought about the welfare of somebody else, right? Not just anybody, but someone else who has someone who has the kind of mindset of that devotion towards the Lord, right? It wasn't just like, a random Pookie and a Ray Ray, right? So, because we know a lot of our people don't have that same godly mindset towards Yahweh Bashem Shai, right? So, you know what? That's pretty much the point. I kind of just wanted to, as a matter of fact, I'll end off with this one here. This is, just bear with me. This is Acts 20 verse 35, and it says, I have showed you all things, how laboring ye ought to support the weak, and to remember the words of our Lord Yahushai Hamashiach, how he said, Yahushai speaking, it is more blessed to give than to receive, right? So it's a healthy mindset, to have, right? Because we know that we need, divine protection in those times, man. It's just a way to kind of have and store up treasures in heaven, because when you think about all these calamities, when you think about the Lord said he has set up, I think it's like dogs to tear, those who are numbered to the sword, you know what I'm saying, to roughly paraphrase. When you think about these things, it's like, we'll need, protection in those times, right? So how much more with the little substance that we have, that was given to us, right? So, anyways, and even when you do give, because it says that it's more blessed to give than to receive, when you do give, you're still receiving, right? So, anyways, I thought I would just, make a quick lesson on that. But, hopefully, this lesson was edifying. Just like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Until next time, I say Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.